You can't be a great growing leader if pleasure is your highest pursuit.
No.
Because there's a lot about growth that's not pleasurable.
No, at all.
But it's like dragging yourself into the gym, but then when you come out, you're energized.
Yeah.
So you have to fall in love with the process of growth.
Welcome, everybody, to the Leadership Academy special edition of the Faith Family Leadership Podcast. We have got a live studio audience for episode 2. Episode 2, my name is Brian. I'm going to be your host. And with me, as always, our lead pastor, Pastor Josh.
What's up, everybody?
PJ,
Hello,
you
hello.
doing good tonight? Oh, they're rowdy. They're rowdy. I'm fired up for tonight. Let me tell you why. Because anytime we have the opportunity to talk leadership, especially in a setting, in a format like this, I know we're going to walk away with some value, not just because of what we'll learn practically, but what we'll learn in the way that we think, the perspective that we'll have. And so what's so special about tonight for all of those that are listening and watching is that we actually have 150 future leaders sitting in the room right now from our Leadership Academy. We were giving out coffee and Red Bull at the doors, maybe. That's why you're hearing what you're hearing.
Love the energy.
Love the energy. But before we get started talking about leadership, I think we ought to play a little game.
Let's do it.
Now, here's what's interesting. After we did episode 1, shameless plug, it's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment. Moving on. Most people commented about how much they loved the game
Yeah.
that we did, so I thought we'd do another one.
Okay,
We're going to play a game called Fill in the Blank. It's as simple as it sounds. I'm going to make a statement.
Okay.
There's going to be a blank in there. You're going to answer with that blank the first thing that comes to your mind.
Okay.
An example of that would be blank is the worst place to vacation. Sound good?
Sounds great.
Okay, I'm going to kick it off with a layup. Blank is the worst place to vacation.
Galveston.
You know what I want to say? I want to say Russia. But I don't know if that's appropriate.
Maybe I should have said that. Anybody from Galveston, I apologize.
Anybody from Russia, I apologize.
That's just the first thing.
Okay, blank is the worst smelling food ever.
Oh, wow. I'd probably say Chinese.
Yeah, it's got a tinge on it.
Yeah, especially if the carpet's dirty.
Yeah. It's musty.
The food may taste good, but there's something going on in the air.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Brussels sprouts, specifically steamed ones.
Okay. You were thinking more like specific item. I was thinking more like genre.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Okay, my bad.
The other day, Elizabeth was steaming some Brussels.
Yeah.
And the boys were like, who just cracked a rat? I'm like, no, that's just your dinner. It's your mom's cooking.
Yummy.
All right. Your favorite part of last week was blank.
Favorite part of last week had to be my day off.
Amen. Did you play golf?
Of course.
Yeah. Nice.
I was by myself, though, so it wasn't as fun, but it was still great.
Check the box.
Yeah,
my favorite part of last week, we're doing the CrossFit Open right now.
Okay.
So got together with some friends on Friday night, our gym, Bell House. We had this thing called Friday Night Lights. Everybody was competing, hanging out. It was pretty fun.
Okay.
Enjoyed it. If you weren't a pastor, you would be a blank.
Gosh, I would probably be an entrepreneur.
I like that. I was thinking about this. I would either be a race car driver.
Okay.
Or I'd write screenplays.
Yeah, much more interesting than my answer.
I have high hopes. Yeah, I don't know, race car driver. That's why I like to go fast.
Yeah.
That's why I drive a Camry.
If you're not first, you're last.
All right, this is a good one. We could spend some time on this one. The best TV show you've ever seen is blank.
Mine would be The Office. At least an episode a week.
No. Yeah. That's when you get confirmation that you have submitted yourself to the right leader.
Yeah.
When they say that. I would say The Office, too, for me. I've also been recently on a Walking Dead kick.
Okay, I've been
Rick
there.
Grimes kick, though, not after Rick.
Yeah, Life After Rick wasn't too interesting.
That's not the world I want to live in. Okay. Blank was a nickname you had growing up.
Buckethead. don't even know if the camera can get it all in. I mean, look at this thing.
We got the
it's
wide
a work
lens.
of art.
I didn't have one.
You know, I said that
friends.
the other day in a service, and there's a lady in our church. If she's in here tonight, please don't take offense. But she comes up and she calls me that like every day, every Sunday now.
Appreciate that.
And like I don't, it's like
Appreciate that.
Like my grandpa called me that. You're not my grandpa.
Yeah. It feels wrong.
Yeah, it's kind of like a family thing. You're not family. You're not my family.
No.
Family of God, of course.
Yeah. Okay, here's another one. Growing up, you looked up to blank the most.
Oh, looked up to
God.
Yeah, no. I wasn't looking up to God. My uncle. I looked up to my uncle.
It's cool.
Uncle Philip. Yeah, he was kind of like a big brother.
Yeah.
Slap us around a little bit.
That's right.
Take us to get ice cream.
Yeah.
Good uncle.
High risk, high reward.
Yeah.
Blank.
Two extremes.
Yeah. Blank is your favorite vacation spot.
Oh, that's a great one. We've taken some great vacations. Last several years, I've enjoyed going to Florida.
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of the 30A area.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's great.
I want to go with Mexico, Cancun specifically.
Nothing wrong with that.
It's a once a year for me.
It's all right.
It's always good.
It's all you can handle or all they can handle.
Pastor's not pastor in Mexico.
Tonight's topic, integrity.
All right, this is a good one. The car you passed your driving test in was?
Say that again?
The car that you passed your driving test in was?
Well, I don't know. See, back when I took the test, you had to take it in their car.
What was it?
I don't know, maybe like a Sentra or something, a Taurus. I don't know. It's just random.
I'll one up
mediocrity.
I got my driver's test in a 2001 Ford Windstar.
Nice.
It's my mom's.
Mom's old blue.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty dope when I was swinging that thing trying to pick up the ladies.
Yeah.
They weren't down.
I might.
I don't know why. I can't imagine why.
I think I remember that car.
You probably do. Here's a good one. Life would be boring without blank.
Life would be boring without, gosh, I'm so predictable, but I would say it would be pretty boring without golf.
Yeah. I'm with that. Yeah. They like that. Mine is kids.
Yeah. But maybe more fun.
I could replace it boring or enjoyable.
Yeah, it might be more enjoyable.
Judah got punched in the face on the bus last week.
Okay.
I didn't tell you this. This is true. This is a true story.
Yeah. Did he punch back?
No, but this is what he told me later on. He was crying and he was upset. And I said, well, we need to just wait. Maybe he'll ask for forgiveness. Maybe he'll apologize to you. He says, no, I'm ending his life tomorrow.
That's good.
So then we talked about turning the other cheek.
I kind of respect that.
Yeah, I do. All right, last question. The best gift that you ever received is blank.
Best gift. I don't know why. My kids gave me a money clip that I still use to this day. So
It's pretty
I don't
cool.
know. Maybe it's a little sentimental.
Yeah. No, I like
Just
that.
a money clip.
Just a money clip.
Yeah.
Worst
Father's
gift.
Day.
Worst gift.
Worst gift. Wow. Okay. The same uncle
Yes.
I talked about that I looked up to. Yeah. Well, he got me a shirt one time. It was more like a blouse for Christmas. It was the ugliest shirt.
Did you have to wear it?
No, my mother would not make me do that.
Oh, nice.
I don't know if it ever even made it home from where we got it at Christmas. We're at a family.
It was a
member.
re-gift situation.
It was a terrible shirt. I was kind of like, I was kind of a little chunky kid at the time, and it was like one of those silky shirts. So it was like showing a little too much.
Yeah, you can't go
Kinda
silk
had like,
unless you're ready
Kind of
for
had like
it.
metal buttons with white with a little black on it. Like it
might be kinda dope
but it
now.
wasn't even silk. It was like a rayon. It wasn't
It's
good.
not nice silk.
No, it didn't lay nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lay nice. Worst gift I ever got was a leather toiletry bag.
What's wrong with that?
Well, it wasn't what I had in mind. It was a Valentine's Day gift from Elizabeth. First year.
So
I had real high hopes for
were you all
what.
married at the time?
Yeah, the first year.
Oh,
marriage.
that's an interesting gift.
I thought
First
the same
year.
thing. First year one.
Yeah.
Usually, you feel like you've started up pretty high with that.
Yeah, kind of swing for the fences.
Yeah,
but
well, leather toiletry bag.
Yeah. Maybe she's frugal.
I don't know. She likes me to keep my toiletries all in one place, I guess. We're moving on. Okay. Well, as I mentioned earlier, for those listening or watching, we're sitting in a room right now with future leaders, people that have committed the next season of their life to growing, to developing. I know that we've got people at all different stages listening, watching to this podcast. So I thought what would be cool to talk about tonight is this subject of personal growth. Okay. One of our values here is that we never stop growing.
Right.
One thing that I've seen you model, seen you help us as a staff embrace is a growth mindset.
Right.
Okay. You're
So important.
Yeah. I mean, I think from connecting us with mentors, people who are several steps and stages ahead, pursuing resources, even saying yes to opportunities that will stretch capacity.
Right.
I think that one thing that you have always encouraged, modeled, and if I can say it, even somewhat required of us as leaders, is to have a growth mindset.
Right.
Because of what God's called us to do. So I want to talk about that tonight.
Great.
I want to talk about personal growth, and I'd love for you to just share with us, the listeners, the viewers, give us some handles on what it means to approach a growth mindset.
Yeah. Before I answer that, I just want to say to everyone how proud I am of you for saying yes to this thing called leadership. And it's not an accident that you're here. There was a desire in you for more. Yeah. And that desire led you to, an opportunity or an environment where growth could happen. And I love talking about growth, especially personal growth, because growth is the only guarantee that tomorrow can be better. I have to grow. There's things that I don't know. There's skills I don't have. And the only way that those things are going to be assimilated into my life is that I must pursue them intentionally. I've got to grow. I've got to just surround myself with people that want to grow. And because we're in this faith thing called church, and as a church leader, I've seen environments, and I've been in environments where there was no desire for growth. Maybe there was a stated desire, but there was nothing that was attached to it that would cause a growth to be possible. I was raised in a movement where growth in a church was kind of up to God. Yeah. And it was all up to God, So we're going to keep doing the same thing, the same way, never changing, and somehow God's going to bless that.
Yeah.
When God is a God that he's a God of growth in the sense, not that he needs to grow, but he has, from the very beginning of time, he told Adam and Eve, he said, take dominion.
Yep.
And he said, and that means to grow your influence. You take dominion over this planet that I've given you and make the most of it. So I love talking about growth because I think there's something on the inside of us all that desires growth. How we get there, sometimes is the big question mark.
Yeah. How do you get there, approach that? You've been doing this obviously for a long time. You've been through so many different stages, highs, lows, everywhere in between, just the different stages that you went through, even not just growth in regards to what you're doing as a leader, growth as a husband, as a father, even as a follower of God.
Right.
I know everything that you do has a strategic approach. It's a gifting that God's given you, but I think we all could benefit from that approach tonight.
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I think what I would encourage everyone listening to do is, number one, make it a priority to grow yourself.
Yeah, it's good.
First. And you say, well, isn't that seems selfish? Why wouldn't we want to help others grow? Well, you want to help others grow, but you cannot give what you do not have.
Yep.
So if you don't have it, how can you give it? How can you make someone else better? And I think one of the pitfalls that I've avoided is this mindset that growth just happens automatically. Which it's a big assumption that I think a lot of people make. Our hair grows and we don't even really think about it. It just grows. I mean,
for some of us.
Yeah. Well, facial hair. Yeah, there you go. I'm not leaving anybody out. And we don't give any thought to that. Our bodies kind of grow because we're feeding it, and that feeding them. And sometimes we think, well, it's just going to happen with age. I know people that have been Christ followers for 50 years, but they don't have 50 years of growth. They've got 50 years of maybe 1 year of growth that they just keep repeating over and over and over and over again. They're not breaking through barriers in their own life, and they've just kind of allowed life. They're not leading their life. Life is leading them.
Yeah.
And they've just kind of taken it as it comes. But I've really pushed against that assumption gap, and I know that there are things that I had to seek out. I had to really pursue, because I didn't always know where to go to find the growth.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's another pitfall, is like, but I didn't allow that to stop me.
That's good.
I just kept asking questions. I just kept looking at leaders, mentors from a distance that I wanted to emulate. And I knew that there were things, even when it comes to the church world, when it comes to best practices on how to lead in an organization like ours. And we are an organization because we're really an organism. I mean, it's the body of Christ. So I had to learn how to do that. And I've just been on a journey for, gosh, I guess it started when I was 18 years old, at just developing myself and trying to just get a little bit better, every single day, every year, just a little bit better. And it's amazing what can happen over time, because a lot of us, we overestimate what we could do in a short amount of time, and we underestimate what can be done and achieved over a long period of time.
That's right. That's right. And I think one thing that you've always kind of helped us with is just this whole thought of self-awareness.
Yeah.
I think you've even said it before, you got to know yourself to grow yourself.
To grow yourself.
You've shared with us before as a team about there's these two versions of us that we have.
Right.
There's our ideal self, and then there's the real us. And there's a gap in between. Right. And so I'm sure we all have a gap to some degree, and the goal here is to close that gap as much as we can. What do you do to kind of navigate the gap?
Yeah, I mean, you said it well. The ideal is what we want to become. Sometimes the ideal is what we tell ourselves that we are the ideal, because it validates who we are in our own mind. Doesn't necessarily convince anyone else, because they see the real. They encounter the real every day in our homes, on our jobs, in our church family. The ideal is this, it's this wonderful version of ourselves that maybe exists, from time to time. It's like the golfer that goes out and shoots an amazing score, and they don't realize that, probably they were by themselves if they claim to have an amazing score, because that no one else sees it. And again, that's a great example of what the ideal is. But the real is who we are day in and day out. It's the habits we live with, the decision or the discipline that we've embraced as a person. And I've just never been content to live in the ideal. And I may strive and grow and want to get to that place, but I know that the real me is clearly seen by the people closest. It's determined. It's proven by the results.
Yeah, it's good
that I'm able, to achieve or make happen. And the greater the gap between the two, it equates to the level of deception that you choose to live with.
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's strong as vinegar. I probably should have wordsmithed that better. But the greater the gap, like you're deceived. And the danger about deception is that you can deceive yourself.
Yeah, you don't know.
I mean, and I know people that have been in ministry, business, different encounters that I've had in relationships. I mean, they have convinced themselves that they have arrived. Mm-hmm. I've encountered it in couples, relationship care, that I'm giving a couple to help them process their life. And one individual in the relationship just kind of lives, you could tell they're living in another world, their own world that they have created. I've done nothing wrong. I'm just this. I do everything right. And they wouldn't necessarily, sometimes they have said it in those terms, but most of the time they're just kind of getting to that point. And it's sad because they'll never grow in those areas that they are deficient in because they've convinced themselves. So I've always been very mindful to seek feedback.
Yeah.
I seek feedback from the people closest to me on our lead team, people that have been mentors to me, and even if and I've allowed them to speak into my life.
That's a good point.
And that can be painful.
Yeah.
My first
talk about that.
My first real experience with this, I must have been 26 years old, and as a 26-year-old, you have I had some success in ministry as a youth pastor. I was able to gather students and be fairly successful at that. Obviously, looking back, it was anyway. I was living in a fairy tale world, and we did something in our staff that I was on at the time that I had never participated in before. We did what was called a 360 evaluation, where you are evaluated by a leader, a peer, and someone that you lead. Oh. And I'm evaluating others. So I'm evaluating other staff members. I'm evaluating some of my leaders. I wasn't evaluating anybody beneath me because, there was no one that I was leading that was paid.
I got to know this.
Were you the dream team?
Were you lighting up the other staff members?
I was totally lighting up the other staff. And that was the point I'm about to make, because I was judging them based upon strengths that I may have had or may not have had or thought I had, and maybe the weaknesses that I could see in them. So I was being very honest. Well, I didn't know everyone else was being honest, and they were when they were evaluating me. So I got my report back, and it hit me like a ton of bricks and at first I was mad. I mean, obviously you're like, no way, they don't know me. I don't. And then all the thoughts that go through an immature leader's mind that's in development, you start thinking, well, they don't appreciate me here, and man, I should go somewhere else. And I got to the point, and I think Kara helped me process this, because Kara really helps me stay in tune with who I really am. And where I currently am in my development. And that's what a good spouse would do for you. And I just thought, I can't run from this. Yeah. If I'm going to get better, I've got to embrace this. And pain is a great catalyst for change. Pain is a great catalyst for growth, because it caused me to creatively and wholeheartedly embrace new mindset, new habits, new relationship skills, and most of what I was being judged on, accurately so was the result of underdeveloped relational skills as a leader. I was a results guy, and I think it doesn't have to be either or; it can be a both and. So I had to drastically grow in my relationship skills, and it came face to face with the reality that I'm really glad I did, but at the time it was tough to process that.
No doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. I think about some of the most, you can look back on your leadership journey, and I don't know, I think you have some moments that you look back and you're like, those are catalyzing moments.
Yeah.
And I think back on some of the hardest discussions that I've ever been a part of. And every one of them, while in the moment they were very difficult, they were the lid lifters.
Yeah.
That was the thing that, whether I necessarily loved the delivery method or not, it was true.
Yeah.
And I had an option there, just like all of us do. It's either I choose to take this thing head on and work a plan and solve it, or I'm just going to run into this somewhere else.
Yeah.
And so I think about it like this. Every time a hard conversation is had with me, or you even mentioned the results, because I think sometimes we aren't real to the results. Well, I had good intentions. Well, I tried.
Right.
Yeah, but it didn't happen.
Right.
And so every time I've had to look at that and it happens, I look at it like on the Hot Wheel tracks, those little things that you put in and the cars go through and it's a little turbo for the Hot Wheels.
Yeah.
It's what it does for your leadership. It's the thing that sets it off to the whole next level.
Right.
And so there's just so much value in this thought of knowing yourself, getting people to speak into your life that you trust, people that have been through stages, people that you give permission to say, hey, call me out.
Right.
And something that I think that is incredibly valuable about that is if you have somebody in your life that will do that for you, how valuable is that?
Yeah, very. Pay them or give them gifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because something that you've shown me is that you're risking the relationship.
Yep.
Anytime as a leader that you're bringing something to somebody, whether that's, here at the church or in your job or whatever it is, you're risking the fact that they may not receive it that well.
Right.
The relationship may be forever altered, but their future is worth it to you.
Absolutely.
So I just see so much value in that. So knowing yourself, surrounding yourself with right people who read your mail, you're accountable, they're helping you see things, looking at the results objectively. You kind of get this feeling where you're starting to understand your opportunities to grow. What happens next?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just speaking to that feedback piece, that how the feedback comes.
Yeah.
I think for a person that really desires growth, it's irrelevant. I do believe that you need to receive the right feedback given in the right way. And when I bring feedback, as I've grown and matured, I've learned how to give it more effectively because I'm giving more feedback than I'm receiving feedback. But I realize that I still need feedback, so I'm seeking it out. I'm seeking it out from people. Sometimes I'll do it within the church, people that I know and trust. Not just the bobbleheads that would necessarily maybe agree, oh, Pastor, you're so wonderful. People tell me that if they tell me I'm wonderful, I'm like, they're probably not the person to receive feedback from.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nice. I mean, I like to be encouraged. Don't get me wrong. I mean, keep it coming, but I could probably use more, all leaders can. And I think that's true for all of us. But I do value those that have the boldness that I've given permission to share feedback with me. Mentors that I've pursued, I allow them to speak into my life. Hey, what do you think about this? And I want to grow. So going back to my first feedback moment that kind of rocked my world, that information was not given in the right way. It was just kind of in a report, and it was like, okay, now what do I do with this? And I remember going down to, I don't know if the bookstore was Barnes and Noble. I don't think it was. There was a bookstore in our town where we lived. And I just went to a section in the bookstore to start learning about and I think it was called Emotional Intelligence 2.0. It was just a book. I mean, it's years ago. I mean, it's probably 15 years ago. And I just remember getting that book off the shelf and reading it and saying, I'm going to do everything this book says to do. Because what I'm doing, it ain't working. It's not working. I will never be effective as a leader because if you don't have influence, you're not leading. If people aren't listening, you're not leading.
That's good, man.
If you're not connecting, you're not leading. People aren't going to follow a leader that didn't have well-formed relational skills, or at least had an understanding that they needed to form these skills. I've worked for pastors, and I love dearly the pastors that I served. I've served 2 pastors in ministry, and I have a good relationship with both and stay in regular contact with both of them. One was from the old school, and there was, one way to do it, and it was his way, and he didn't really care about your way. And that was, I look back at those years, and I thought, man, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
I learned a lot of what to do, and I did learn a little bit of what not to do. Sure. But I just kept learning. And I kept receiving. So the feedback has to be the right feedback given the right way, but it has to be received well.
Yeah.
And someone that wants to grow puts their I know we live in a world where feelings are the thing now. But when you learn to set your feelings aside and parse through the information to say, what is true about this? It could be 1%. That's what I want to get. But they may be saying a lot of truth. I may not like the way that they're delivering the truth, but I'm not going to reject the truth, because if I reject the truth, I'm rejecting my own advancement. And I'm simply going to stay right where I've always been, getting the same results I've always had. And had I done that, I wouldn't be sitting here today. Sure. So it takes a lot of humility. You got to bite your lips sometimes. You got to learn how to say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. Please keep it coming. You're making me better. Because the best coaches that I even had in high school, I was a very mediocre high school athlete, but the best coaches that I had were the ones that challenged me the most. And that's not always easy to receive based upon the way you were raised in your family of origin. If it was a harsh environment, maybe you kind of flinch at that. But I want to encourage you to just lean into it. And if you're receiving it from a leader in this church, you just have to believe that person's doing the best they can with what they've been given.
Yeah.
And I actually treat everybody like that in my life. They're doing the best they can with the skills they've been given based on their background and what they've learned. And I'm going to look at that and say, okay, what about that is true?
Yeah.
I might even bounce it off some people around me. Hey, do you think that's true? I'll ask the lead team, hey, what do you guys think about what I just said? How did that come across? Was that a little too direct? Was it not direct enough? And I'm all, is this clear? Am I speaking with clarity? Do you understand? And I'm like what am I doing? I'm getting feedback.
Yep.
Because I want to be better.
That's right.
Because if the leader gets better, everybody gets better.
That's right.
The lid just keeps being raised on the organization. So I think how you receive the feedback is so vitally important. And I said a lot there. I don't think I answered your question, though.
No, but you did in a way, because once somebody gives you the feedback, you got to do something with it.
That's a great one.
Like, because think about this. How many times you'll take the time, you'll give somebody some feedback, and then like, okay, cool. And then they may have received it well in the moment, but they don't do anything with it.
Right.
It's like this outwardly compliant, almost inwardly defiant nature.
Right.
So it's like once you receive the feedback, then you got to do something with it.
Yeah.
Because it's not going to happen just because now you got to take some steps.
Yeah, I think if there's no application, there's no growth. So you have to apply it. And what I would say is pick two things, one skill and one area of choice that you want to grow in. And sometimes it's coming not even from negative feedback.
Sure.
I mean, sometimes, okay, I just need to get better at this. I'm constantly trying to improve in areas of my life where, whether it's work, home, I'll even get on like kicks on just like hobbies that I want to get better at. So, but an area of skill that you need to grow in, and an area of choice, and invest an hour every day somehow getting better at those things. 365 days a year. Don't take a day off. Constantly, okay, I'm getting a little bit better. And then so you begin to prepare yourself and learn new things. I've done this from communication standpoint. When you stand in front of people every week, you want to be able to communicate as well as you can. This is an area that I'm constantly looking at. It's very uncomfortable to watch yourself on a video, and it's not enjoyable at all. But I'm constantly critiquing, okay, I could have said that better. Why does my face look like I'm in so much pain right now? How's my tones? And did I say that the most loving way that I could? Was I direct enough there? Was that uncalled for? Yes, probably. But was it funny? Yes. Okay, we'll give it a pass. So I'm constantly evaluating that. As a husband, I'm constantly working to get better. Because if I'm going to spend time getting better for anybody, it should be my family.
It's good, man.
So we see a counselor. I have a one-on-one with him from time to time, several times a year. And I initiate that.
Yeah.
And it's not necessarily oh my gosh, there's something wrong. I don't wait till there's something wrong. I mean, it's part of my growth plan. I'm paying the guy. And it's like, I need an hour of your time because I want to get better at this. Okay, let's talk about that. And he'll break it down. He'll give me an outside perspective. He'll give me thoughts, and I'm taking notes the whole time. I'm a student of, the Gallup Strength Finders. It's a personality profile that helps you identify your strengths as a person. There's 29 of them. One of my top 5, number 4, is a learner.
Yeah.
So I'm constantly, like, if I ask you questions, hey, well, tell me about that. It's not because I'm questioning you. I don't have a questioning spirit. I just want to know.
Yeah.
Sometimes when I ask people on our team while they're doing certain things, they're like, well, I'm like, hey, it's okay. I really just want to know. You didn't do anything wrong. I just want to know why you did that because it's interesting to me. And so I've even learned how to pose those questions the right way, so it kind of disarms that. But I'm constantly, from being a husband, a father, there have been times where I haven't felt like I was connected with my kids as much as I wanted to be. And I know that my definition of success is that one, it's not the size, it has nothing to do with the church. That's not the ultimate for me. I think the ultimate would be that my kids love me. And then when they're adults with kids of their own, they want to come to my house and visit me. They don't feel like they have to come visit me. So I want them to come visit me. I actually even want our staff that we have, the team that God's given us, I want them to look at me and love me and respect me because that's who I am, not because I demand that of them. Sure. So I'm constantly thinking, how can I be a better dad? And I've sought out help on that. And I've implemented new things to help me connect with the heart of my kids more. So when, leading a church, I'm constantly looking for ways to get better. And that is a part of my life. I don't just fall into the veg out mode when I get home and I can't tell you I haven't done that before. Funny thing I told some of our pastors today, I found myself, I think it was close to an hour on TikTok watching Judge Judy videos. And it was awesome. And she's just wearing people out. I'm like, get them, yeah, you did that. And she's like, I know you did that. I'm like, tell him to Judge Judy. But that's not the norm for me.
No.
Pleasure's that's not my highest pursuit in life.
Good.
You can't be a great growing leader if pleasure's your highest pursuit.
No.
Because there's a lot about growth that's not pleasurable.
No, at all.
But it's like dragging yourself into the gym, but then when you come out, you're energized. Yeah. So you have to fall in love with the process of growth.
Yeah, well, everybody wants what discipline rewards, but they don't want to walk through the path to get it.
Yeah. Discipline does calls you to experience pain, but the payoff is what you're after.
That's right.
And that's why you embrace discipline. Because, I've said it like this, that the pain of discipline is far less than the pain of regret.
So true.
So I don't want to look back one day and say, man, I could have done more.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm not talking about doing to earn anything from God. I do believe God will never waste a prepared person.
I agree with that.
So I have to grow so I can go into the things that God has prepared for me. Mm-hmm. And I think all of us have so much potential, but we don't know what we don't know. We're not always on a path that calls us to new places of growth. And you can't wait until all the conditions are right to start growing. You're not going to just wake up one day and say, I am motivated to grow. No, you start today.
That's right.
You start right now. What is it that you've been putting off? What is it that you've been holding back on? What dream have you put on the shelf and said, well, I can't do it? Well, you may not be able to do it in fruition, but can you prepare yourself to take steps towards that? Because when I was a 26, 27-year-old guy that learned that I had relational deficits that were hindering my ability, I said, I'm going to get better at that. And I didn't know when Faith Family Church Baytown was going to come into existence, but it was just, 7 or 8 years later that we were stepping out in faith. But I was stepping out on a much more stable foundation that was setting me up for a win. But that thing started years in previous to that. And I didn't even see that. I didn't even know that was coming. But had I not put myself on a path for growth, the opportunity never would have presented itself.
What I love about that is that you didn't wait to start.
That's right.
You just started now.
That's right.
You didn't wait till you were motivated. You're like, hey, I'm just going to do it now. And wouldn't you agree that...
Because growth happens over time.
That's what I was going to say.
It's
Wouldn't you
very
agree that
gradual.
it takes longer than we think it will?
Always takes longer than you think. And it's not fun. It's frustrating. Growth is frustrating because we want to get it right the first time. There is no world where that exists. And most people, when we don't get it right, we just fail. I'm just not cut out for this. I mean, think about the things that we say that limits our own potential.
Yeah, totally.
We'll never be able to do this. Or I just can't get it right. This is just who I am. Or God, this is the burden that God's given me to bear. And we'll put some kind of even spiritual excuse on it that's not even rooted in Scripture.
So true.
When God's trying to take limits off of you, we keep putting them back on ourselves.
Oh, come on, man.
Because of comfort, because of convenience, because of, whatever it is that we tell ourselves. And a lot of that goes back to the way we're raised and whether we believe in ourselves or not. And I think if you're going to go on this path, you have to be good at your own self-talk. Like that, that is important, like your dialogue.
Yeah, talk about that.
Because your inner dialogue will determine your destiny many times. Because if you allow your mistakes to be, deadly, you'll just stop. You won't go any further. So I've learned to fail forward. It's like if I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fail forward. Like there's a lesson to be learned that will make me better in the end. And I'm okay with that.
So good.
I'm okay with that. I don't let people or myself, I don't put unrealistic expectations on myself. If I missed it and I made a mistake with a decision, I would never, I'd look back at that and say, man, I missed that. Wish I'd have been a little bit more strategic on that. I wish I would have thought that through a little bit more. Well, I'm going to learn from that. That didn't work. We're going to do something different next time. This is a skill that I've developed, and that's why every morning I have daily affirmations. I call it my morning meditation sheet, and it has statements about myself, about Kara, that are all in our family, and our church family, and our leaders that are aligned with Scripture, that get my thoughts moving in the right direction from the moment I wake up.
That's gold, man.
So I don't allow myself to get into some funk because, I made a mistake. We're all going to make mistakes, but I have to have a foundation to go back to. No, that's not who I am. I'm not a loser. I'm not a joke of a pastor. I am this. I am this. This is what God says. Because as a man thinks in his heart, so is he.
Yep.
And I've learned how to even make declarations that I believe are true based on Scripture that aren't even real yet. In many ways, I saw this church in my own mind and heart before we even moved back to Baytown. Now, if you tell the wrong person that, they think you're arrogant and crazy. And you got to be careful who you tell, because Joseph learned the hard way. Don't tell the wrong people what you're dreaming about.
So true.
You got to tell the right people. But I did, and then there's some things that are just between you and God. But I do think that when I started wanting to be a pastor, I voiced that to my pastor. You need to share your areas of growth. Like, hey, this is where I want to grow. And I asked my pastor at the time, for permission to seek this opportunity that I'm now currently in. And he was so gracious. He said, well, if you're going to go, we're going to go with you. We're going to help you every way that we can. And I made a commitment verbally. If you don't make a commitment to share your areas of growth with someone verbally, you will never see that growth come to pass.
Come on. Yep.
You need to tell somebody, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to whatever. I'm going to be a better husband this year. I'm going to be a better father. I'm going to read 5 books this year. I'm going to read 5 pages this year, whatever it is. I'm going to get in shape. I'm going to get a family budget. And then you tell them, because you're seeking accountability.
That's
from
good.
them.
Come on.
And then you tell them, hey, you asked me if I did that. Because I know there's a lot of people that just love talking about what they're going to do one day. You ever met somebody like that? I mean,
yeah.
I see pastors at conferences sometimes, and we're about to. I'm like, sometimes I'll say, you told me that 2 years ago at the same conference. How long are you going to talk about it and pray about it? God, quit waiting on God. God's waiting on you.
That's right.
You got to start somewhere, you know? Yeah, despise not the day of small beginnings. So you have to really think that through. You have to be strategic. You got to have a plan for growth.
That's great.
You need to put this stuff down on paper or, digitally, however you do that, and keep that before you all year. So I set goals at the beginning of the year, and every week I'm revisiting those, and I'm thinking about, okay, am I on track for this? Mm-hmm. And there's some areas I'm exceeding. There's some areas I'm a little bit behind, but we're not giving up on those things.
But at least you know. And if you weren't tracking it, you wouldn't even know.
That's right.
One of the things that you said that really stuck out to me is that whole thought of self-talk.
Yeah.
When you're stepping into leadership, you're only going to probably learn through failure. I mean, how much do we learn through success, honestly?
Yeah, I know.
Very little. But what goes on in between those years is what's going to keep you in it for the long haul. Because you said at the very beginning, you said, oftentimes we overestimate what can be done in a short period of time.
Right.
And we underestimate what could be done over a long period of time of just being consistent. And so I think one of the biggest growth things that I've experienced probably in the last year and a half was I finally learned to like who I was as a leader.
Yeah.
For so long, I was like trying to maybe be something that I wasn't, or wishing that I was different, wish I was a little less driven, wish I would have moved a little slower, and then at some point I was like, no, God made me the way that I am. That's not to say like, hey, I don't have opportunities to get better. I want to do that. But like you've told us so many times, you continue to work on your strengths, but you don't let your weaknesses limit you. And so I think that it's so important for us as leaders in knowing that failure is going to be a part of this journey to get that headspace right. Because if you take yourself out, you'll never be able to experience all that God has for you, but all that God has for others through you. Because we don't get into this for ourselves. We get into this because God designed us to reach other people through the unique gifts and talents that he put on the inside of us. And, I think one of the greatest ways that the enemy will come at us is through distraction. Because if he can take us out, he doesn't have to worry about us taking ourselves out.
Yeah, distraction and discouragement.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love to see, and this is what, it really does put, how would I say it, fuel to my fire, if you will, is that moment when someone steps into what God has called them to do. Like that is so rewarding for me. And big crowds, that doesn't really do it. It's when the church and the individuals that make up the family of God, the church, that they are mobilized in the ministry that God has for them.
Yeah.
And I don't mean ministry like standing on a stage and preaching. That could be a part of it, that they're calling, but it could be something that's just as meaningful. They're leading a small group. They're finding purpose and making a difference on the dream team in some capacity. Like, I love that. And I love seeing this.
I know.
This was just all a dream one day. I was like, hey, we should have a leadership academy. We should train leaders. Here we are.
Hey, we started with 8 people.
Yeah.
In an office.
Yeah, it was just, but we started.
That's right, we started.
We had to start somewhere. And so, we believe big, we start small. So I love that. But what probably saddens me the most is when someone who has stepped into what God has called them to removes themselves from it. Mm. And people will say things like, well, and I know it's the lack, they lack the skills to manage their life.
That's right.
So I believe they're doing the best they can, but they'll get out of ministry because their kids have all these sports games and they're spending all this time over here. And I'm not against kids' sports. I know I pick on it from time to time, but it is an area of prevalent pressure that's put on parents, you know, and I really don't get it because it's not a value that I live with. I don't live for my kids. One of my son's in here. I'm proud of him for being in here, but I don't live for him. I live for God. We live for God, and they get caught up in all of it. And yes, I want to be the best dad I can, but I know that there's something in him that God has put there and his brother that I want to help mine that out. So don't get on rabbit trail. But when someone pulls himself out of it, nothing's more discouraging. And here's what people will tell themselves. And it goes back to the self-talk. Someone else could do this.
Yep.
Maybe, or they'll make it sound spiritual. God will call someone else in here. Maybe he won't.
Come on, man.
I've thought about it many times. I don't know of a lot of church planners. No offense. We love this city. This is where we're from. I don't know if Baytown's on the hot map for church planting. Do you know where most of the churches are being planted right now? Nashville.
Yep.
Austin. Dallas, Fort Worth. You can't throw a rock and not hit a mega church in Dallas, Fort Worth. Florida. So we tell ourselves those things, and we're just robbing ourselves of the potential that God has for us because we would rather stay as we are than step into who God says we can be.
That's right.
So nothing about growth is easy. Anything worthwhile in life is always uphill. Just know that. It's uphill. A great marriage, uphill. Great family, uphill. Great business, uphill. Everything worth having in life is uphill.
So
and
true.
if you're not willing to go uphill, then don't complain about what you have.
No progress.
Because you chose it.
It's good, man.
You chose it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's the fun part about leadership is that you really start looking at life not as if you're God.
Yeah.
Because obviously we work hard as though it depends on us, but we believe as though, that everything really, we know everything depends on God. So we have our part to play. God does his part. And, his part, when he blesses it, that's where you hope you position yourself for him to do. But having a passion for personal growth, it's only going to make every part of your life so much better.
That's right. So good. Know yourself to grow yourself. Get something on paper. Get some kind of a plan. Yeah.
Invest, one skill, one area of choice.
That's right. Start now.
Yeah, and
don't
you can
put it off.
Seek feedback from people around you. Hey, and I want to say this: if you can't lead yourself, you can't lead others. So some of you, it's as simple as be on time. And on time for a leader is early.
I feel like that's a word from the Lord.
But if you can't lead yourself, how are you going to be able to lead others?
Come on, man.
For some of you, it's like, I need the skill of cleaning my car out every week because there is something growing back there.
There's a rotisserie chicken on the dashboard.
When did that half-eaten chicken get in here? We say that because we know someone who had a rotisserie chicken
on the dash.
Yeah, and it's like, is that a chicken wing on the dash? Yeah, it is.
It's later.
It's interesting. It's been there a while too. It's a little fuzzy.
Fuzzy.
All right. For some of you, it's a skill of money management.
Yeah.
For others, it's a skill of emotional regulation, where you just recognize I'm too emotional when I make decisions, and I've got to get better at that. How do I get better? So start consuming resources. If you need help, talk to one of the pastors. We can help, make sure you're drawing from the right well, because there's a lot of wells in quote unquote Christendom that isn't always like the well you probably should go draw from. Correct. There's some strange streams out there. We'll just say it like that.
Some muddy waters over there.
I'm not saying we're the best. I'm just saying that there's some interesting stuff out there. But get into, start seeking it out.
Yep. Start
building relationships with people that are good at the things you want to be good at. And it may be from afar.
You find what you're looking for.
But you start seeking that out, and you start really making it a priority.
Yeah, man. It's great stuff.
Yeah,
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thanks.
We got a little time left. You want to do some Q&A?
Sure, I'd be glad to.
We had some questions come in from episode 1 that I thought I could share.
On your time?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a couple more minutes.
We got them for 3 hours tonight, so wow. I'm just kidding. So questions came in from the first episode. I thought we could discuss them here with some time.
Okay.
One question that came in multiple times is this: what are some of your favorite books on leadership?
Oh, wow, there's a lot. One that's impacted me quite a bit as of late is a book called Maximizers by Liz Wiseman. It's a fantastic read on how leaders, we must release people and not try to control people. I mean, obviously, anything that John Maxwell has written is a fantastic read, and I think I've read all of them. I just finished a book that may be helpful for a lot of you being new to leadership. It's called Good Leaders Ask Great Questions.
Oh, yeah.
That's a John Maxwell read. It was written several years ago, but it is fantastic material. I could open up my Kindle here and just kind of look at a few, but I mean, just absorbing great books has been something that I have enjoyed doing over the years. And I think it does, it gives you access to resources and wisdom that it's taken some of these authors a lifetime to build.
Yeah,
I mean, just think about that. It's just, it gives you so much. The Leader's Greatest Return, a Maxwell book, fantastic read. Look here.
I like to read books that kind of show me how leaders think. So sometimes they're in the Christian circle. Sometimes they're outside of it. One book that I almost read it once a year now is Tools of the Titans.
Great read. I've read that book. That's where I found out about Oolers.
Yeah.
Which is a mattress pad that has cold water that runs through it at night.
It's amazing.
If you want to sleep well, I highly recommend it.
Tools of the Titan, written by Tim Ferriss. Not all the language. It's a great book. Yeah. Great book. What it does is it has these 4 different categories, but this guy interviewed some of the world's top performers on their habits. And there's consistencies amongst the world's top performers. It's an insightful read. My favorite John Maxwell book is 5 Levels of Leadership.
Great book.
It's a fantastic book. There's another book written by a guy named Ryan Holiday called Ego is the Enemy.
Love that book.
I love that
Atomic Habits is another great book.
That's a great book. Yeah.
Clear. Leaders Eat Last.
Yeah.
Yeah. Simon Sinek.
Yeah,
Yep. Sinek. Great book. Just trying to think of some that might be applicable here. I think you can't go wrong, seeking out leadership. I do some Audible books too from time to time that have been really helpful to me.
Blinkist is a great app that you told me about.
Yep. It's kind of like a Cliff's Notes for books in an Audible form. And it does have it printed. And so it gives you okay, I like this, I'm going to go look into this a little bit more.
Yeah, it's good. Good.
Yeah.
Here's a question that we got. How do you practically seek out mentorship?
Okay, I've been very intentional about this. I found myself recently in a setting with 2 people that I didn't necessarily think I would ever be in that close a proximity with, but it was just a journey. I was with John Maxwell and Pastor Chris Hodges and other pastors, a few other pastors, but it was a very small, intimate kind of a setting. And what I did is that I started reading and absorbing their material. I started attending their conferences. So I started building a relationship from a distance. And then obviously God opens up doors. Sure. But I was very mindful to steward that well, in that I wanted to not come across as a weirdo.
It's important. It's key.
I didn't I wanted to honor them and their time. Not too long ago, we had the opportunity to have dinner with Pastor Chris and his wife, Tammy, and Kara and I asked, and we had built, years getting to this point.
Yeah.
Years getting to this point. He starts seeing you at conferences. Hey, Josh, what's up? People that he knows know me, have been here, and we're having dinner at PF Chang's. And he knew the purpose of the meeting was that we wanted to see if if God was doing something and they were to be our pastors. We need pastors. Your pastor needs a pastor.
That's correct. That's correct.
So in the conversation, that question was brought up again, and that door was opened. So, but I'm very mindful to approach them with honor and intentionality.
That's good.
When I'm with them and they ask, does anyone have a question? Guess who has a question?
Yes.
Already prepared, and not a dumb question. There are such things as a dumb question.
100%. 100%.
Like, I want to glean from the wisdom that he has to apply it to what my setting, and I take notes, and then when I'm with them, I may even mention things about a book that John Maxwell. I love how you said this,
That's great.
And I knew he was passionate about intentionality. So we're flying back home, and we're sitting on the plane. And guess what? I got John Maxwell talking to across the aisle from me. I got 3 hours worth of a lesson on intentionality with Pastor Chris chiming in and other pastors. And there's 7 of us on this plane. And I'm thinking to myself, how did I get in this little tube in the air with these people? Because I was a kid raised out in Old River, Texas, in a very meager, nothing against my parents. They did the best they can, and I love them and honor them. But I was raised in a double wide trailer. And I shouldn't be sitting on this stage. I shouldn't be sitting in that plane, but it's just the journey of growth and God's grace, and all of it comes together with giftings, and then you steward what God's given you.
So good.
And then next thing you know, you turn around and you're thinking, how do I get to live this kind of life and have this opportunity? It's God. I'm not taking credit for God's part, but someone had to do my part.
That's right. And when you get in those circles, you get concentrated doses of the steps you need to take to go to the next level.
Yeah, but what you focus on, you kind of start attracting that to your life. Yeah. And if you're focusing on the right things and learning from the right people, it's just God. I think God just put that on the inside of us. It just kind of starts happening. And I had to say no to a lot of things. Sure. When you're this intentional, some people would say I'm somewhat robotic in the way that I'm very disciplined to a structure and a schedule. And Kara could tell you, just tell her, Thursday, 4:00, what's Josh doing? Josh is at home working out. That's where I am. Yeah. Monday, 10 a.m., Josh is on the golf course.
Intentional.
Yeah, I can call him at 1.
Do not disturb till 1. It's good, man.
Yeah, so, I know some people say, well, you're the pastor. You get to, it's like, well, God doesn't send angels to dress me every morning and make all the red lights green. I'm in the same world you're in.
Correct.
I just don't let the chaos of this world control my life.
So good.
I'm just never going to do it. I pastor a lot of people, and I love everybody in this church with everything that I have. I pray for the people of this church every single day. I pray for the leadership of our church every single day, the pastors of our church. I pray for you every day. Yeah. But your chaos will never become my chaos. Your urgent is not my urgent unless it is really urgent. You following me? Yeah. So I've just learned how to take, and it never feels, it's just how God will position you. It just never, God will put you in places where it doesn't feel like it's, like I know it's not too much because I got God, but it never feel like an overwhelming task. Yeah. People say, oh man, you're a pastor. I bet it's so hard. I bet it's hard doing your job. Everybody's life's hard. I couldn't imagine my dad has worked at the same chemical plant since 1976. Same one. He is the definition of consistency. His hair and mustache has not changed one day that I've known him in my 43, almost 44 years. I couldn't do what he does. No. But he couldn't do what I do. Right. So my life, there's not like, life's good. I'm great. I'm blessed, just like you are. Yeah. But it's just being intentional about it.
Good. All right, I'm going to ask you, I got one more. Okay, we got some time. What qualities do you think that most leaders lack today?
What kind of leaders? What are we talking about?
Like young leaders.
Young leaders.
New to it.
Self-awareness.
Yep.
That is a quality that I think that we just don't get taught. I mean, nobody's parents were having maybe one or two were sitting around here talking about your self-awareness. Like, are you cognizant of the way well, first of all, no one's using the word cognizant. Are you aware? I didn't want to say aware and self-aware. So that's just, do you realize how you're coming across to everybody in your world? Mm-hmm. Most parents aren't even aware how they're coming across to their own kids. Most people in the world don't care how they're coming across.
Yeah.
Because it's just, this is me. I got to be me. You don't want me to be me. Not the me I want to be sometimes. I mean, just think about that. I mean, you can't be effective and do and say everything you feel.
So good.
You just can't. There is no reality where that's a good reality. So I think self-awareness is probably one of the biggest things. I think, and don't take this the wrong way, anybody, I think humility goes right hand in hand with that.
I think resilience.
Resilience, learning how to overcome adversity, absolutely. Because a lot of times people get taken out, real quick, I mean, it's like the tomato and the apple. Tomato plants, they grow pretty quick, produce fruit, but the first frost takes them out. Apple takes them a little bit longer to develop, but they come back year after year after year after year. Most people are like tomato plants. Most leaders in local churches are like tomato plants. They want to come on real strong, but throw some adversity their way. It's the parable of the sower and the soils. Mark 4, it's like, okay, a little hardship comes, a little sun, a little heat, they don't wither up and die. You're like, where'd they go? Well, their roots weren't down.
Yeah.
So that's resiliency. That's perseverance. Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. Thank you for sharing with us tonight.
Oh, thank y'all, man.
Thank you for being such a great audience.
It's my privilege.
Yeah, man.
I love being here with you guys.
And to all of you that are watching and listening right now, thank you for tuning in with us. You can you can subscribe. If you have a question that you want us to answer in a future episode, drop it in the comments. Keep serving, keep leading, keep growing, and keep making a difference. We love you. We'll see you on the next episode, everybody.